Let's talk football now and our best bets in the NFC North because we've been talking about the division all week here on the show. If you look at the NFC North odds at BetMGM, the Packers, the minus money favorites at minus 165. Vikings are plus 260. The Detroit Lions plus 850 ahead of the Bears. We're going to stink this season at 10-1. And then NFC North win totals, Packers sitting at 11.5, Vikings 9.5, Lions and Bears both at 6.5. What jumps out at you?
Yeah, looking at the menu for NFC North bets, I think I'm going to start with an appetizer of the Packers minus 165 to win the division. They have shown that they're the class of the division, and I don't think losing Devontae Adams and Marquez Valdez-Scantling are going to be enough to hold down Aaron Rodgers. We're talking about a two-time back-to-back MVP here. So I don't think that, if you have that good of a quarterback and a team that actually has a decent defense too, I think you're still going to be the class of this division. I think the Vikings, I think there's a lot of question marks there with a new offensive scheme. And plus you got Kirk Cousins. Like, do you really want to trust him? No. The Lions, I think, are going to have a good season, but still not, it's too big of a jump from going from 3 wins to winning the division. I think that's too big of a jump. And then I'm squarely out on the Bears. So the appetizer for me is going to be the Packers minus 165.
I love that. I'm on that as well. I think that's a cheap price for a team that is clearly the best in the division. I'm a little worried about Devontae Adams not being there, but even without him, the Packers are just far and away the best team. And by the way, they quietly had a top 10 defense last year. So you don't sleep on Green Bay's defense either. No, it's easy to do because you always think of Aaron Rodgers, but I love the Packers at minus 165 as well. When I look at win totals, am I wrong to go over 6.5 for the Lions at minus 110? It's minus 110 both sides, but I feel like the Lions are that darling team. There has been a lot of money coming on Detroit because people are expecting them to be so much better. They got better at the end of last season, but am I falling into that trap, Chelsea, where I'm buying this Lions hype and at the end of the day, they're still the Lions?
No, I don't think you're wrong. In fact, that would be my next course on the menu. I would be ordering in a heartbeat the Lions over 6.5 wins. Just because looking at last season, yeah, they were a bad team that only had 3 wins, but 7 of their 13 losses were by single digits. If you remember, one of their games was a tie to the Steelers. There were plenty of winnable games in those losses. So I think if the pendulum swings even a little bit towards the other direction where they can find ways to close out games, and looking at the way they lost some of those games, some of them have been historically bad beats. Looking at the game in which the Ravens won on a 66-yard field goal from Justin Tucker. Incredible. Then they lost to the Vikings on a 54-yarder from Greg Joseph. So I think the pendulum eventually has to swing in the Lions' favor. They're getting better. They have a decent enough quarterback in Jared Goff. So I'll go with you on the Lions over 6.5 wins.
Yeah, I just think they're going to do it. Again, 7 will get it done, and I still have to adjust to the fact that now we play 17 games in the NFL as opposed to 16. So when I look at these numbers, sometimes I get a little fooled and remember, 17 games, not 16 in the regular season. I will also say I'm going to fade the Bears. The under 6.5 is minus 145. I know it's $1.45, but I just don't see Chicago winning. I get it. It's Justin Fields this year. But they bring in Matt Eberflus, who's a defensive-minded guy. And the Bears do have a good defense. But they're not going to be able to move the football, Chelsea. They are not going to be able to generate any offense. Who is Justin Fields going to throw to? Who? Who's your guy? No. Dead silence. Silence. We had a guest from Chicago on, and he said, Cole Kmet. I like Cole Kmet. He's just fine. But if Cole Kmet, your tight end, is your number one option or maybe your best option, you're in trouble. I love David Montgomery, but the problem is that Bears line is so bad. Justin Fields is going to be running for his life. Oh, yeah. They signed N'Keal Henry, who did nothing. Patriots drafted him in the first round of Arizona State a few years ago. What did he do? Again, silence. Nothing. I'm going to fade the Bears 6.5 and go minus 145. I think football is better when Chicago is good, but it's not going to be this year.
I think it's a problem if you are drafted by the Patriots and even Bill Belichick can't find a way to make you a receiver work in their offense. So I think that's a problem for N'Keal Harry. But they do have Darnell Mooney. I do like him as a receiver. But the problem is They are working in a new system. Justin Fields has had an uphill climb the entire time he's been in the NFL, and now he's starting from scratch. He has to learn a new system under a new head coach who's also a defensive-minded head coach. So I'm wondering if there's not enough pieces around Justin Fields to improve at all this season. I do think there's a good quarterback in there somewhere, but it's such an uphill climb when the team around you is not very good. I think some other interesting plays to look at are offensive plays for the Vikings because they have a new offense, and it's going to be an offense where they're throwing the ball a lot more. And who's been more electric than Justin Jefferson, the receiver for the Minnesota Vikings? I think it's a very short list. So maybe there's some value in playing some offensive props for Justin Jefferson to have the most receiving touchdowns. He is 9-1, tied for the third lowest odds. So it's not a long shot play. But still, if you think this is a Vikings offense that's not going to be committed to the run like they have been in the past and they're throwing the ball more, Justin Jefferson, I think, can put up some big numbers.
Well, coming up in 10 minutes, Chelsea, it's almost time for the weekend. We'll try to put some money in your pocket and give you our best bets. And tonight, as the games are unfolding, you can listen to BetMGM tonight with our crew, Quentin Mayo, Ryan Horvat, and Trista Crick. How cool is this? They react in real time, and they also instantly offer their advice for in-game wagering. It is all on BetQL and all available on the Odyssey app. I like your pick for Justin Jefferson. Just makes me a little bit nervous because Kirk Cousins is throwing to him. However, even though Kirk Cousins doesn't do well in prime time and he's not a great clutch player, he does put up really nice numbers. So I think there is some value on Justin Jefferson. I'll tell you a play I love, absolutely love. AP Defensive Rookie of the Year, Aiden Hutchinson for the Lions, 5-1. He's your favorite. You can also bet on Quay Walker of the Packers at 9-1, the linebacker out of Georgia. But I think Hutchinson is going to be that guy who just comes in and immediately makes an impact, like a TJ Watt sort of impact on his team, because he's that Michigan guy. He seems like a can't miss prospect. He's going to be beloved. The early reports are that he has just been tearing it up, and they're considering making him a team captain in year one because he's such a great leader. I think he's going to be a stud. I'm all over Hutchinson at 5-1.
Plus, he wants to be there. That's a statement that most people probably can't say, is they want to be in Detroit. So he's a guy that's already got a ton of praise, even being a rookie. Wasn't he in consideration to be one of the team captains, which is saying a ton for a guy who's not even been on the team for a full season? So wouldn't talk you off of that. Looking at this menu, is there anything that you absolutely hate and you would send back to the kitchen and say, don't serve me this nonsense?
That's a very good question. Something that I hate on this. Well, you know what? Most passing touchdowns, Aaron Rodgers at 10-1. I don't think he's going to have the most passing touchdowns. And I think they will lean a little bit more on the running game. You can't convince me that Aaron Rodgers is going to have the most passing touchdowns in the NFL, even at 10-1 when he loses Davante Adams. If you're going to have that many touchdowns where you lead the NFL, you've got to have a number one guy you can always rely on. And he doesn't have that.
Also, they have a pretty decent run game that I think they're going to lean more heavily on this season when they don't have those down the field threats. And Davante Adams was an anytime touchdown machine. If you bet on anytime touchdowns, Davante Adams was usually a piece that you threw in your parlay because he's always minus 190, minus 200. But usually it was a good leg to your parlay. I think all of the bets for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in the postseason are bets that I would send back immediately and say, no, I'm not eating this. Good luck, but I'm not eating this, because I think the Packers are going to be a great regular season team, but I'm not sold on the Packers contending in the postseason just because we haven't seen it. How good has Aaron Rodgers been in the NFL? How good has he been? 3-time MVP? How many Super Bowls do they have to show for it? Just one. Even last year, when it seemed like the year is supposed to be the last dance with Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. They had home field advantage. It was snowing. All we heard about was Jimmy G can't play under these conditions. If it's under 35 degrees, fade Jimmy G. But guess what? The Packers didn't win a Super Bowl again. So I think any bets for the postseason of the Packers are off the list for me.
Well, Aaron Rodgers is 9-1 to win MVP at BetMGM. Josh Allen is your favorite at 7-1, followed by Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady at 8-1. If you like Aaron Rodgers to win back-to-back-to-back MVPs without Davante Adams, then you need to like tarot cards and crystals and meditation and candles, because now Aaron's with Blue of Earth and she's going to open up this whole new world for Aaron to finally win another MVP and make the Super Bowl. I think you're absolutely right, Chelsea. Aaron Rodgers is not a guy I particularly trust in the postseason, but it is so difficult to win 3 consecutive MVPs. I actually like, now this is not in the NFC North, but you can get Russell Wilson at 15-1. And I think a rejuvenated Russ in Denver with that receiving core, I think is a guy that you can get a lot of value on. And I will definitely put some money on Russ at 15-1.
It's still hard to learn a new team, and he's still playing in a very tough division. I think you got to look at the opposing defenses, though. How tough do you think those defenses are? Maybe it's not as tough as just the overall teams, but I don't know. I believe in Russ. I am an NC State person through and through.
Oh,
Russ
that's
went
right.
to NC State when I was there. So I think even, here's my bold prediction. I think Russell Wilson is going to run for Congress one day. Congress, president, something, and I think he's going to win. He is that likable of a leader.
Did he ever come to one of your crazy parties in Raleigh?
He went to a few baseball parties, but he wasn't a big partier. Like, he is
Yeah.
his persona to a T. He barely drank. He barely did anything. He was very responsible.
Boring. Come on, Russ. It's college, man.